Picture this. You're standing at the kitchen counter, chopping the base off a head of romaine lettuce, and you toss it straight in the trash without a second thought. I used to do the exact same thing every single time. Then, one afternoon, I dropped that base into a bowl of water on a whim, and 4 days later, fresh leaves were pushing out of the center like the thing had come back to life. That moment changed the way I look at kitchen scraps forever. Today, I am walking you through the complete process of turning vegetable scraps into actual food-producing plants, from the first cut all the way through harvest. And stick around toward the end, because I've got a bonus tip on one scrap most people throw away that can produce food for years, not weeks. Let's get into it. Regrowing food from scraps you would normally throw away puts you back in control of something most people have handed over entirely to the grocery store. Once you see how simple it really is, you will wonder why you ever let those scraps hit the garbage can. We are going to cover which scraps are actually worth your time, how to set up a simple regrow station, how to start them in water, when, and how to move them into soil, and how to keep them producing. It all starts with knowing what to save and what to skip. So let's jump in there. I'll be straight with you. Not every scrap in your kitchen is worth regrowing. I spent my first year trying to regrow just about everything, and most of it was a waste of time. Avocado pits? Sure, you can sprout one. But you are looking at somewhere around 7 to 10 years before that tree even thinks about producing fruit, and it probably never will indoors. That is not what we are after. You want scraps that regrow fast, regrow reliably, and actually give you something you can eat within a reasonable window. The ones I keep coming back to year after year are green onions, romaine lettuce, celery, and bok choy. Those are your heavy hitters. Green onions are the easiest win you will ever get in a kitchen garden. You cut them about an inch from the root end, stick that root end in water, and within a week, you have got fresh green shoots ready to use. I have had single green onion roots go through 6, 7, even 8 regrowth cycles before they finally gave out. Romaine and celery work on the same basic principle. Keep the base intact, give it water, and the plant's energy reserves push out new growth from the center. Bok choy does the same thing, and honestly, regrows even faster than romaine in my experience. There are others worth trying once you have the basics down: ginger, potatoes, sweet potatoes, lemongrass. But start with those 4. Get a few wins under your belt first. Confidence matters more than variety when you are just getting going. You have got your scraps picked out. You know which ones are worth saving. Time to set up a space where they can actually do their thing. The good news is you do not need anything fancy. I have seen people overcomplicate this with grow lights and humidity domes right out of the gate, and honestly, for the water rooting stage, that is all overkill. Your regrow station is just a sunny windowsill and a few containers. A south-facing window is ideal if you have one. You want at least 4 to 6 hours of natural light hitting that spot every day. East-facing works too. You will just see slightly slower growth. Get yourself some small glass jars or shallow bowls. I use old mason jars for green onions and small drinking glasses for anything with a wider base like romaine or celery hearts. The container does not matter much as long as it can hold about an inch of water and keep the scrap upright. One thing I will tell you from experience: clear containers make your life easier. You can see the water level, you can see root development, and you can spot problems early without disturbing anything. Grab a handful of containers, set them on your windowsill, and you are ready to go. Total cost is basically nothing, which is one of the best parts of this whole process. All right, with your station set up, let's get into the actual technique, because this is where a little bit of know-how makes a big difference. The way scrap regrowing works is surprisingly similar to what happens when you prune a plant. When you cut the top off a head of romaine, the base still has living cells and stored energy right there in the core. It does not know it has been harvested. As far as the plant is concerned, it lost its top growth and it needs to replace it, so it pushes new leaves out from the center using whatever energy it has left. Your job is just to give it water and light so it can do what it already wants to do. For green onions, cut about 1 inch up from the roots. You want that full root cluster intact. That is the engine. Set them root end down in a jar with about 1/2 inch of water covering just the roots, not the green part. Within 2 to 3 days, you will see fresh growth pushing out of the top. It is genuinely that fast. For romaine, celery, and bok choy, you are working with the base instead. Cut the stalks or leaves about 2 inches up from the bottom. Set the base cut side up in a shallow bowl with roughly 1/2 inch of water, just enough to cover the very bottom without submerging the whole thing. Too much water and you are asking for rot. Too little and the roots dry out. That 1/2 inch sweet spot is what you are aiming for. I change the water every single day, and I mean every day. This part is not optional. Stale water breeds bacteria, and bacteria will turn your scrap into a slimy mess faster than you would believe. Fresh water every morning takes about 30 seconds and makes the difference between success and a smelly failure. Within 5 to 7 days, you should see small leaves forming in the center of your romaine or celery base and tiny white roots starting to push out from the bottom. That is your signal that the plant is alive, it is working, and it is ready for the next step. All right, so what I have shown you so far is genuinely useful on its own. But I will be straight with you. It is just a fraction of what is possible when you really commit to growing food from scraps. I spent a long time figuring out what actually works and what is a waste of effort, and I put everything I learned into a guide called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. It is a day-by-day plan that takes you from saving your first scrap to having a garden full of food you grew from things you would have thrown away. It covers which scraps are actually worth your effort, the setup method that works every time, and a full 30-day calendar so you never have to wonder what comes next. Click the link in the description right below this video, just scroll down and you will see it. Or if you're watching on a TV or a computer, grab your phone, open the camera like you are going to take a picture, and point it at the QR code on screen. A link will pop up at the top of your screen, tap it, and you are there. No typing needed. Either way gets you to the guide, and I genuinely think it is worth every penny. This is the part where a lot of people stop, and I get it. You have got green onions regrowing in a jar on your windowsill. You are snipping off fresh growth every week, and it feels like the system is working, and it is for a while. But here is what I learned after my first few rounds. Scraps regrowing in water alone will give you a few harvests, maybe 3 or 4 decent ones, and then they run out of steam. The plant is burning through its stored energy with nothing to replace it. Water does not have the nutrients that soil does, so eventually the new growth comes in thinner, paler, and weaker until the whole thing just stalls out. Transplanting into soil is what turns a fun kitchen trick into an actual ongoing food source. You want to move your scraps into soil once you see a healthy set of roots, usually about 1 to 2 inches long, and fresh leaf growth that looks vigorous, not wispy. For most scraps, that happens somewhere around 7 to 14 days after you start them in water, depending on the variety and how much light they are getting. I use a basic potting mix, nothing exotic. A standard bag from the garden center, $5 or $6 for enough to fill several pots, works perfectly. Grab containers with drainage holes. I cannot stress that enough. Scraps that survive the water stage will rot in a heartbeat if they end up sitting in waterlogged soil. I usually go with pots that are about 6 to 8 inches across for individual lettuce or celery plants, and I will group 3 or 4 green onions together in a single pot that size. Bury the roots in the very bottom of the base, but keep the crown, where the new growth is emerging, above the soil line. You do not want to bury the growing point. Give it a good watering right after. Transplanting enough that you see water running out the drainage holes, and then ease off. You want the soil to stay damp, not soaked. Think of a wrung-out sponge. That is the moisture level you are after. In my experience, give it light. Give it time, and it will bounce back. Your scraps are in soil, they are rooted, they are growing. This is where patience and a few simple habits turn into a steady supply of free food. The number one thing I see people get wrong at this stage is harvesting too aggressively too soon. I made this exact mistake myself, got excited, cut too much, and the plant could not recover. You want to follow what I think of as the 2/3 rule. Never harvest more than about 1/3 of the plant at one time. Leave at least 2/3 of the foliage intact so the plant can keep photosynthesizing and pushing out new growth. For green onions, that is easy. Just snip what you need from the top, leaving at least 2 inches of green above the soil, and the plant keeps growing from the center. You can harvest the same plant every 7 to 10 days this way, which is remarkable when you think about it. One scrap producing fresh food every single week for months on end. For romaine, celery, and bok choy, you are harvesting the outer leaves and letting the inner ones keep developing. Peel from the outside, leave the center alone, and the plant keeps producing from the core outward. It is the same biological principle as pruning. When you remove outer growth, the plant redirects its energy into the newer inner leaves, and the cycle continues. Feed your transplanted scraps about once every 2 weeks with a basic liquid fertilizer, something balanced, diluted to half strength. I use a standard all-purpose liquid fertilizer, nothing fancy. Costs maybe $8 a bottle and lasts months. That little bit of nutrition is what separates a scrap that gives you 2 harvests from one that keeps going for 2 or 3 months. Keep them in the best light you have got. If your windowsill light starts feeling weak, especially heading into winter, a simple clip-on grow light for $10 to $15 does wonders. I have kept romaine and green onions producing straight through December and January with just one small light, supplementing a north-facing window. I have been regrowing scraps for a long time, and I still run into problems. The difference is, I know what I am looking at now, and you will too. The most common issue, hands down, is slime and rot during the water stage. If your scrap turns mushy and starts smelling sour within the first few days, it almost always means the water was not changed often enough, or there was too much water covering the base. I lost my first 3 celery attempts this way before I figured out that half an inch of water changed every single day is the magic formula. Throw out anything that has gone slimy. Once rot takes hold, there is no saving it. Start fresh with a new scrap and keep that water clean. The second thing I see a lot is leggy, pale growth. The leaves come in long and thin and washed out instead of compact and green. That is a light problem, pure and simple. The plant is stretching toward whatever light it can find. Move it to a brighter window or add a small grow light, and you will see the difference within a week. I'll save you some grief on this next one. If your transplanted scraps wilt and never bounce back after about a week in soil, you probably buried the crown. That growing point in the center has to stay above the soil line. Bury it, and it suffocates or rots. Pull it up gently, reposition it so the crown sits just above the surface, and give it another chance. Yellowing leaves on an otherwise healthy plant usually means it is hungry. Scraps that have been in the same pot for more than a few weeks without any fertilizer will start showing pale or yellow leaves, especially on the outer edges. A half-strength dose of liquid fertilizer usually turns things around within 10 days or so. The last one catches people off guard. Flowering. If your lettuce or bok choy suddenly shoots up a tall central stalk with small flowers on it, that is called bolting, and it means the plant has decided its growing season is over. High temperatures and long daylight hours are the usual triggers. Once it bolts, the leaves turn bitter, and there is no reversing it. You can delay bolting by keeping plants in a cooler spot, harvesting regularly, and making sure they are not sitting in direct afternoon sun during the hottest months. But if it happens, just compost it and start a new one. That is the beauty of scraps. Your next plant is already sitting in the kitchen. After all these years, This is still my favorite trick, and I wish someone had shown it to me the very first season I started doing this. It genuinely shocked me. Take a piece of fresh ginger from the grocery store. Look for a chunk with a few little bumps on it. Those are called eye buds, and that is where new growth comes from. Soak it overnight in warm water to wash off any growth inhibitor that might be on the surface. Then set it in a shallow tray of damp potting mix with the eye buds facing up. Cover it with about ½ inch of soil. Keep it warm, keep it damp, and in 2 to 3 weeks, you will see green shoots pushing through. Here's the part that gets me. A single piece of grocery store ginger, something that costs maybe $2 or $3, can turn into a plant that produces fresh ginger for years, not weeks, not months, years. I have a ginger plant that started from a store-bought scrap almost 4 years ago, and it is still going strong. You just keep harvesting from the edges and letting the center keep growing. It does beautifully in a container indoors, even if you do not have any outdoor garden space at all. If you only try one advanced scrap regrowing project, make it ginger. Look, what I have shared today is a solid start, but it is honestly just the beginning. If you want the whole system, everything I have figured out about growing food from kitchen scraps laid out in one place, I put it all together in a guide called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. It is a day-by-day plan covering which scraps to use, which ones to skip, the exact setup, and a full 30-day calendar so you always know what to do next. There are 2 easy ways to grab it. Click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down and you will see it. Or if you're on a TV or a computer, take out your phone, open the camera, and point it at the QR code on screen right now. A link pops up at the top, tap it, and you are there. No typing needed. I wish I had had something like this when I was starting out. I think you are going to get a lot out of it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. Drop any questions in the comments. I read every single one. Now go save those scraps, and I will see you in the next one.